Marta Terrado.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we will be recording this session, and my name is Marta Terrado, and I'm from the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. I'm a partner in the Climateurope2 project, and I will be moderating this session with the support of Judith Klosterman from Wageningen University and Research, who is also a partner in the project, and who will be keeping, hi Judith, who will be keeping an eye to the chat for your questions and comments, and then transfer them to the speakers, or if you feel keen on unmuting yourself also, you will be able to post the questions yourself. So this session is aimed to be a discussion with you. So yeah, feel free to use the chat at any time. And during the session, we will listen to different speakers that will run us through particular aspects of the social context of climate services. And this will be done in an interactive way as much as we can. And particularly, we would like to reflect on political and cultural aspects that should be considering when designing climate services, also when evaluating these services, and when standardizing some of their elements. We will look into how the standardization of climate services can support policymaking. And in addition to that, and as it was presented yesterday during the gala opening, the Climateurope2 project aims to develop an equitable network of climate services actors. And we will build for that on the network previously initiated by the former Climateurope project. We will discuss in this session the challenges to achieve this equitable community. And finally, we will also brainstorm on what a climate services platform should offer for it to be used by the climate services community. So which are the things that you need to know, to find there or to discuss in this platform. So to start this session, we will start with an icebreaker to warm up a little bit. And for that, we will use a very popular tool for asking questions to the audience, so Mentimeter. So please bear with me while I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it. And then we move to the icebreaker. Okay, let me start it here because I see it did not appear there. Oh, perhaps, okay. Perhaps we are having some issues now with the icebreaker because it might be that our colleagues are using the same system. So why don't we move it to the end of the session? So perhaps, well, let me try again, but I think, yeah, that may be the reason why it doesn't open. Let me see. Now, okay, great. We don't need to move it. Okay, so if you could follow the instructions that you see on your screen, so you can either scan the QR code that you can see, or you can go to www.mentimeter.com and then enter the code that you can see in your screen. Okay, I will keep now this slide for 30 seconds or so, so you can go there. And if someone has a problem, perhaps you can raise it on the chat and we can help. Okay, let me see if people are joining. Yeah, we have some people that joined. Mauro, can you see how many people are in the session? Just to have an idea.
36.
So still we need some people to join, please. We have 18 now. So yeah, if you have any problems, just let us know. Because you have these two different ways to access. Okay, 19 now. Very good, 20. I'll wait for a few seconds because I see that the number is increasing. Because the thing is that it's good to start by the icebreaker to try to see what's your understanding also on the concept of climate services and also the concept of standardization, you know, because in the project we use these two concepts very loosely, let's say, but it's true that it's good to know if people also are aware of them or if you understand it the same way as we understand it in the project. Okay, 25. So yeah, let's wait 10 seconds because I see, more people are joining. Oh, 27, okay. Yeah, the more we are, the merrier. Good. I will take that the ones that have not joined perhaps don't feel like joining the game. So let's now move on. And we will move on to the first question, which is just to know who is in the room now. So what are the profiles that represent you? So if you could choose one, and then we can see if it's more academia or business or policy. Would be good to have policy because this session is policy and community, but yeah, let's see what happens. Okay. Now it seems others willing, so we will need some explanations now because we were assuming everyone would be part of the, well, most of you would be part of the three first groups, either academia or business or policy. But we have a lot of others. Perhaps you can comment, the other group can comment on the chat why you pick other, what's the word that represents you. And perhaps Judith, if you can tell us which are the profiles we were missing in this Menti?
People are saying policy is very unclear. I come from a med services that policy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we should have said government instead of policy, right?
Yeah,
or
governmental institution.
I'm science policy interface. Researcher, I guess researcher, I would say is, so a lot of other is policy then, someone says.
Okay, but good to know that we need to reframe a little bit these categories because policy, perhaps everyone understands policy making, no? And it's not only that, Very good. So let's move to the next question. So the next question connects, so it's about defining a climate service. So it's an open question for you. You can write like kind of a definition. It doesn't need to be long, but what do you think of when you think about a climate services? What it is for you? How do you define it? So please go ahead, sharing your thoughts. We start getting some answers. So climate data interpretation. Okay, interesting. The interpretation bit, yes. Reduce carbon, be green, clean energy. Oh, quite different from the first one. Then what else do we have? Information on climate services gathered for better decision making in order to combat climate change challenges. Compared to whether it is longer term and uses lots of history, data and stats, actionable and usable climate information, translation, okay, of climate data into useful information, climate information for decision making, okay, climate adaptation tools, very vague term, local dimension, Again, here, translation and communication, climate information that builds on tools, on strategies to address climate change impacts. Okay, so for what we are getting, I don't have time to go through all of them. I will do it later, but it seems that there are different interpretations, but many relate to translation, dissemination, communication. Others are more specific, of course. Others signal also decision-making or support to decision-making, and some, mention government as well. Very good, and business and policy. Good. So now, in being conscious of the time, let's go to the last question, which is now we ask you about standards. So we discussed the concept of climate services, and now we would like to know from you, which aspects from climate services do you think could be supported by standards? It can be anything. I mean, when we refer to aspects, we think about, data, we think about models. So parts of the models, parts of the databases, it can be parts of the process of interacting with users, anything that it's in the value chain of climate services? So up to you. It's very broad, this question. We have the answers, but I see we cannot see them now on the screen. Okay, let me see.
It says press enter.
Let me see if this is, yes, thank you. So we have the aspects that you have identified so far are data sources, user engagement, data production and cleaning up, processes for incorporating input from users, okay, standard data, metadata, again, related to data sharing, complexity and asking questions, uncertainties, risks, again, data format, but also visual representation and usability. Too much, but at least variables need the SI standard, meet regulation and decision taken, precise and informative, upscaling, okay, this was also mentioned yesterday, climate risk information, evaluation metrics, okay, again, data, okay. So the data seems to dominate also quite a lot, but there are also other aspects that you identify related to users as well, and how to communicate this information to users. Okay, very good. So yeah, I think we have now, at least we made you think a little bit about the topics that we are going to discuss now. So I will now stop sharing the screen, and we will now listen to our first speaker, who is Grit Martinez. You can see her now on the screen. And she is from the Ecologic Institute Berlin. And she will make us reflect on the policy context and the policy support for climate services. Grit, if you want, I can share my screen with your slides as you wish. Is it okay?
Yes, please. Yes,
okay.
Please. Yeah,
I'll do it. And then, you can, okay, you can see now the slides here. When you want, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much, Marta, and good morning, everybody. I would like to briefly take you through the goal of the policy theme, as we call it, within the policy and community work. And as Marta already said, we very much like to dive deeper into the social policy context, which should be taken in account when designing a climate service, when standardizing it, and when obviously evaluating it. Many of other colleagues work with me in the theme policy, and thanks to all of those contributions, I can have this little presentation today here to give you an update on where we're standing right now in our investigations, what we plan, and where we would seek your input. And we look very much forward to receiving your suggestions today. Now, let me start. Adaptation to climate variability and change, to climate risk assessment and mitigation, as we know, are one of the current challenges for EU member states and worldwide societies. And there is a wealth of EU strategies which embrace these challenges from supranational to national, regional, and local levels. And climate services do play a key role in achieving these strategies. In fact, they become a component of climate governance. However, there are different typologies, processes, and activities and contexts, obviously, involved in the design and also implementation of any given climate service. And in the context of our investigations, we see standardization as a form of governance to steer climate adaptation and mitigation efforts. And this is why standards are very helpful, since standards are known to support decision-making, efficiency, and to improve the quality of life. And on the next slide, please. Yeah, Marta, if you could maybe go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. You see the two overarching questions we are asking in the policy theme, which is how can standardization of climate services support EU policymaking on the one hand, but also what are the requirements of EU policies on any standardization of climate services? Now, in order to answer that, we dive a little bit deeper in what it means to have a policy. A policy, in a nutshell, is what a government outlines going to do and what it can achieve for the society as a whole, in our context on adaptation and mitigation and risk assessment efforts. Policies are designed by real-world stakeholders operating in very complex social, political, and economic systems in different European countries and worldwide, obviously. So our research takes place under the premise that the societal context of a country and or a region shapes the design and the implementation of any given climate risk policy. And therefore, we need to investigate their why and their how to support a standardization of climate services. So the why question and the how questions, which typical social science and humanities questions, they're super important in this context to understand how policies function in a given context and where standardization could help. And this is really one of the key elements of our work to understand the elements of those societal contexts. They can be cultural, political, economic, path dependencies, and others. We need to take them into account before we see our increases.
I think
standardization is not. Yes, please.
I think there were some problems with the connection. It was only me.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. If you can repeat the last bit and then continue. Yes.
The last sentence, yeah. So I was talking about the why and the how questions, why they are so important if we investigate policy contexts and how standardizations could be helpful in a given policy context. And I was just going to talk about how we are going to do this concretely in the work in this project. So we want to map the state of the art of climate service standardization from a multi-level governance perspective. But we will also look at a regional and local case study level in selected examples, how standardization could possibly support policymaking in these levels. And also we want to develop a roadmap for policy support to realize the value of standardized climate services at a much broader scale. This comes later in the project. We obviously are in the stage where we're going to map and analyze and dive into local case study areas. We also are very aware that we can't do this in every EU member state and all different scales and levels. This would be very much too much work anyway. So we really are thinking about criteria to guarantee a fair representation, a diverse representation of the EU member states. And we came up once we look on the variety of climate hazards in EU countries, and we select obviously the whole variety and choose the regions accordingly. And then also countries and regions are at different stages and processes regarding adaptation planning and implementation, as well as producing and using climate services. So we will take this into account. And obviously we also will look for fair geographical representation, having east, west, north and south of the EU incorporated. On the next and last slide, you can see the really our aims and the way forward to it. So number one is we will send out a representative sample survey to policymakers at our level, European, national and regional levels, which will be communicated through the national reference centers of all member states. So to seek their opinion on the matter. And we will also, in the second step, examine policy and regulatory frameworks and or standards in the EU under which climate services are being used and produced. And the aim, as I previously said, is to see where is the potential of standardization. And we do this in two dimensions. One is to understand the context of policies, processes, and stakeholders. within which climate services are being produced and used by officials to develop adaptation and planning at the various levels. And the second one is to understand potential categories for standardization of climate services based on the user requirements and needs. And with this, and in the sake of the time, I only want to point you to the questions, which you also see in the second lower part of the slide about the scope of our investigations. They are questions, they are not exhaustive yet, are questions we are going to ask ourselves and obviously the stakeholders to understand better the social context questions underlying any standardization of climate service and to make appropriate recommendations and also to feed our results into the other parts of the project. And having said that, I want to hand over to my colleague Fiona Kinnenboer for guiding us a little bit through the interactive part, the work cafe, where we prepared a set of questions. And we would like to engage with you and seek your opinion. So thank you very much so far. And yeah, I'm handing over to Fiona. And any question, please, also is very welcome on the context of what I just have presented.
Thank you so much, Grit, and hi, everyone. I'm Fiona Kinnenboer from the Technical University of Munich, also working on the policy team here. So we have 3 questions we wanted to ask you all to get your input, since we have such a rich community here in the room, and to gather feedback of what you think we should be taking into account as we think about the policy elements. So the first question, and please, you can either just raise your hand or maybe just write us in the chat if you'd like to answer. We'd like to hear from you what elements of social context, so cultural, political, economic, should be taken into account when designing, standardizing, and evaluating climate services. It's quite a big question. You might need a minute to think about it, but some of the things we've been thinking about, of course, are what kinds of actors are we talking about when we're talking about users? What kind of actors are we talking about on the provider side? And what kinds of capacities might some of these providers, for example, have for actually engaging with standardization processes?
Fiona, you want people to raise a hand or?
Or if they'd like to jump in, that's also fine. I know we have some policymakers and government officials in the room, so we'd really love to hear from you. So I think if there's no immediate answer to these questions, and we know these are really big questions that we're thinking about here, so it might be a lot to throw at you first thing in the morning, we can move to the second. Oh, I see some things coming up in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have vulnerability indicators. Fantastic. Political approach. Could maybe we hear a little bit more about what that might mean on the political approach? And we also don't mind if you don't have a video and you just want to jump in and tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking. That would be great. Okay, I also see institutional and political frameworks and societal awareness. Great. All right, we'll leave that question as one that you can continue to put answers about in the chat and move also to the next question. So then the next question we're thinking a lot about is, at what stage should participation in the design of climate services take place? So yesterday we heard a lot about how users should be taken into account in a type of co-creative process. So what kinds of processes can we think about, and at what stage should that actually occur? Okay. I see also for the first question, we heard about education should be taken into account. So I would imagine that's meaning the educational level of the users of the climate service. I also see user research, know-how and for who, you're designing the climate service for? Yeah, it's one of our biggest questions is who exactly, and is there a way to actually find a typology for the diverse range of users that we have? Since the beginning, to follow a human-centered design, absolutely, include knowledge and environmental psychology. I would be very curious to hear more about that. And please don't be shy. I know it's a lot of us in the room, but if you'd like to just jump in and say a few words, it would be really great.
I'm not sure for which questions these answers are anymore.
Yeah, I think that these are still for the first one from what I can see. So including knowledge and environmental psychology, knowledge gaps, and the needs of local communities and actors. Okay. Thank you all for your input. Yeah, maybe we can move on to the second question now. So for those of you who are involved in the development of climate services, maybe you've been involved in participatory processes and engaging actors. So at what stages have these participation processes actually taken place? Okay, this is good for us to know that we don't get immediate answers for this. Also, we need to be thinking more collectively about what kind of stakeholders we want to engage and how that engagement can be thought about. I think we have, okay, a couple of answers coming up. So at the source of generation before discharging. Users and providers at all stages of the processes, including evaluation. Okay, great.
Also, perhaps, Fiona, you could comment for when you say for which stakeholders, are you focusing here in policy stakeholders or governmental stakeholders mostly? Or are you expecting the audience to also think about the broad range of potential stakeholders?
I think since we have policy and community session, it could be all types of stakeholders. If we have policy stakeholders, that would be really, really great to hear from them, but it's an open question. In the scope and definition stage, absolutely. So I think some people who are involved in science policy interfaces have probably known how much involvement is happening in early stages to just define the scope of what kinds of assessments might be happening, what kind of scientific knowledge is being formed. So we're thinking a lot about that, about framing and scope. And we have one more answer. If you begin with a human-centered design approach, you need to start with quantitative and qualitative research, as well as participatory activities with users and stakeholders in the exploration part, but also all the way to the delivery testing and iterating. Yeah. Let's move maybe to the last question that we had, which is, how do you think that standardization of climate services can help the sustainability and promotion of long-term adaptation beyond political party dynamics or political polarization? So we've been hearing that sometimes climate services might be more popular with certain administrations than others, for example, and that this is a concern that these climate services might not actually be used over the long run. So we'd be curious to hear if any of you have experience with this and ways that standardization could actually potentially help with ensuring that these services are used over the long run. Thank you so much for the reference, Carla. Okay, I think we are wrapping up for the policy part of this session. And you've given us also the good feedback that our questions are probably a little bit dense. But now you also know who we are working on this in the policy part of the project. And we'd be very happy to be in touch with some of you. Hopefully you'll be hearing from us with a survey soon to also give us more input at that stage. So thanks for your participation, and I pass it back to Marta.
Okay, thanks, Fiona, and thanks, Grit, for this interesting session on policy. And yeah, of course, we have limited time, so we could have had a lot of discussion, but we need to move to the next one, which now it's about community, the community engagement. And community engagement in the project is led by the Center for the Promotion of Science and Wageningen Research, University and Research. And today, Mariana from the Center for the Promotion of Science in Serbia will run us through this other participatory activity. So Mariana, when you're ready.
Hello to everybody from my side. So I will tell you today a bit about this important task that we actually inherited from Climate Europe. In Climate Europe, a whole climate service network and community was started to be built. And what we want to do now is to actually continue on this legacy and build and widen the network and develop it so we could improve connection, engagement, and promotion of European climate service activities. I would ask just Marta to move to the next slide. So I can explain you why are we doing so. We actually want to encourage open exchange of knowledge and expertise and data, and to try to actually understand and gain the insight into the aims and needs of the community. And we really believe that this is one of the most important tasks that we define, and what we already did actually right now, and this was our first activities to make a strategy of how to engage and build community further on. What we actually understood from Climate Europe is that we had certain underrepresented regions in Europe, and we want to actually address this issue and to try to bring into the community these the representatives of underrepresented regions. And how we are going to do so is that we are going to be using novel, innovative approaches such as this one. So this is our first activity in community engagement, the Webstival. It was also inherited from Climate Europe because it was shown that this type of activity actually can bring more people into dialogue and can actually cross borders of physical presence somewhere at the festival. It actually started from the urgent need that during COVID times, we couldn't meet in person in festival. But I think that moving online and making this Webstival and festival approachable for everybody is actually something that we learned from COVID, and that's a good legacy of this time. Can we go to next slide, Marta, maybe? So what are we going to do is that besides organizing Webstivals and such as we're here right now, we're going to organize webinar series as a place and a platform for different stakeholders and members of community to present their work and to share their knowledge. Then we're gonna organize invited webinars that we already organized one with the UK Climate Network. And we're going to completely engage one new activity, which we called Roadshow. We will open an art and science call. The first one will be actually in September this year, which we will make a residency here in Serbia for artists and produce artworks related to climate services, which will then travel in 5 locations during next year. And then afterwards, we're going to release another art and science call for another round of roadshows. So 5 more in total, 10 locations in Southeast Europe. We're still defining locations, and if you would like, and you're from Southeast Europe and you would like to host us on our roadshow, please feel free to contact us at the Center for the Promotion of Science, because we want to find everywhere local partners, and which could help us actually develop the content and customize it for the local audience, because the final goal is to widen the network and to identify and get more stakeholders into the network. Then we will also organize business breakfasts. And I think one thing that is ahead of us is organization of side events so on relevant conferences. And the first one will be organized at ECCA in June this year. And we hope that you will be there and you will be joining our sessions and side events. So basically, we will, as I said, use innovative approaches to try to identify new members of the community. Then, Marta, we can move to the next slide. So I think it would be good that we move to next part, which is more interactive at the moment, because we want to hear from you, and we will again use a Mentimeter. So you can scan the QR code on the we can go back. Yeah, you can scan the QR code here on the screen, and please share with us. So we want to know, what is your role in the climate services community, and actually who are important partners for your work, and how do you interact with those partners? Because we still have some space to try to change our activities and to address your needs, because that's the point of the community. Okay, we are waiting for, yes, so.
Mariana, do you want to share your screen now? To show the results?
Yes, just a second. Just a second. Yes, I will share my screen now. Have some problems, but Miriam, I will share. Maybe you can tell us also directly, like the institutions that you work with, and that maybe we can get in touch with, or yes, the ways you interact with them. Because our final goal is to identify organizations, especially, as I said, from underrepresented region, Center for the Promotion of Sciences in Serbia, and we chose Southeast Europe because we realized that in Climate Europe, not so many organizations from, I would say, this part of Europe were present, and we want to change this, and we want to explain to them, maybe they don't know how can they use climate services, what they can get if they join the network. So we want to approach them and to get them into network to start sharing the knowledge between all the stakeholders. Yeah, so as I see, so this is climate data providers that they do lectures for schools, social media, contacts by users, also researchers that are interacting with local policy makers, local communities, so interactions with local communities, and so we have a engagement interface for Earth system modeling team and so on. I think that these are all, so please give us the answers, because we will then analyze thoroughly these answers after the Webstival, and we will try to understand how to make and how to adapt community engagement strategy in the future. Perfect. So maybe we can move now to the second question. Just a second that we go back to the questions. So the second question, where we also encourage you to use Mentimeter, is what type of events and activities organized by Climateurope2 would be beneficial for you? Is there anything you would discuss or present in this network? As I said, we are actually offering a kind of a platform. So we see our events as a platform for you to share also your work and to get the kind of opportunity to be able to discuss between the network your work. So please now share with us what would you like to discuss or present, and what kind of events and activities would be beneficial for you to, so we can know what to organize in the future. Maybe you can even mention the exact projects that you would like to present on future Webstivals, because you saw, maybe you saw in the agenda that tomorrow we'll have like space for projects to present their work, so they can have a kind of side events on the Webstival. So please share with us the name of the project, or anything else that you would like to discuss further on and share with the network. This is an interesting answer. Thank you. An event where different practices of how to engage stakeholders to share their needs for climate services. Local scale events, that's exactly what we will try to address through Roadshow. So we will, as I said, work on the local with the local partners and try to tackle their needs and to include their local stakeholders and actors who work in the field of climate services. And this is also really interesting, focus group or workshop to understand what information is required from Earth system models, climate projections, and tipping point. Also events on data visualization design, Erasmus project. So thank you this for really concrete ideas. This is for us very, very valuable for our future work. And this is really good, real successful and unsuccessful examples from real people, local politicians, for example, sharing their experiences. So we're thinking to include, and we'll see that they include testimonials. So, but Marta, I think, will also tell a bit more about it. Okay, I don't know if there are no more answers. Thank you very much for this. This was really, for us, like a gold mine to get ideas for the future. And feel free to contact us, as I said, if you would, if you have an idea or you see that your town could be one of the 10 locations in Southeast Europe. We will be really happy to work with you on the roadshow. Thank you very much. I'm going to get back the stage to Marta, and we're open here for any type of questions.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. So now, being conscious of the time, I would like to introduce our third speaker, which is Julieta Rosenblut. Julieta is based at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center as well, and she has prepared an activity using another type of platform also to ask you about the requirements for a future climate services platform for the community. Julieta.
Hi, thank you, Marta, for the introduction. Hi, everybody, good morning, and thanks for joining. Yes, I prepared an interactive activity for you where you are going to answer 2 questions, then vote for the answers that you think are the most accurate. And then finally, we are going to have a few minutes to discuss about it, if you feel it. I'm going to share my screen. Here, share. Now I think that you can see it. Let me introduce you the tools we'll be using to work on the space. Once we have a clear understanding of this, it's very easy, don't worry. I will share the link to the board where everybody can read the questions and provide their answers. I will allow enough time for everybody to complete their responses. So I'm going to show you a basic navigation in this whiteboard. You can press the spacebar and with the scroll, zoom in, zoom out. If you have a Mac, command and the scroll wheel, zoom in, zoom out. And if you have window, control and the scroll wheel, also zoom in, zoom out. If you maintain the spacebar and the mouse, you are going to see that you can see a hand, so you can move the space. And this is the basic navigation. You're going to see that it's very simple. And for the interaction part, well, you can put a sticky note just to drag this to the space like this. If you want to write some text, you can put it. And if you want to put some interactions, here you go to stamp. You put for example, a heart. Now, if you want to vote, for example, I like this answer, you put it here. Or yes, totally agree with this. Something like this. It's very easy. And well, this is everything. I'm going to share now the link in the chat. Share link. Okay, let's go to the chat. This, sorry, here. Exactly. And tell me if you can access. Meanwhile, I'm going to tell you about this. Our team is currently working on the design of the platform, and as a part of our research, we are seeking to understand the needs and requirements of our users. And to achieve this, we would like to propose this activity in which we can collaborate and discuss the topic together. Our aim is to reach a consensus on the most critical needs and requirements so that we can design a platform that meets the needs of our users effectively. So the first question, sorry, is this one. You can see it here. In which processes on your day-to-day work would a climate services platform support you? And we have some examples: find good practices, see other case studies, engage with other actors in the field. I'm going to put a timer, and I'm going to start the timer. You can answer, you can put here, click on the sticky note and write your answer. Let me know if you have any trouble or, but it's only clicking here and you can start writing.
Julieta?
Yes.
You asked specifically for a platform, right?
Yes, we talk
Could
about
you
the
explain?
platform.
Yeah.
Yes. Like we said, like we are trying to understand if you as a user, how would you use a platform, climate services in your day-to-day? You would use it to search for a document, for example, or to know about an event, or would you like to enter to a platform and see if there is in the next month an event and is interesting and is related to the climate services, for example, or you want to know if there is a new document related to standards?
But you are giving examples now, but the Climateurope2 is intending to create such a platform and people can become a member of it, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, the idea is I'm the one who is trying to build this platform. So yes, the idea is to understand more about the requirements of this platform. What would you like to have to, what would be the, why would you enter to this platform? It would be useful for you in which scenario in your day-to-day in your work, for example? I don't know if it's clear. I'm going to give more time.
Yeah, I don't know if people have problems participating. Otherwise, perhaps they can comment as well.
Yes.
Because I don't see anything written.
Yeah. Yes, if you want to comment, it's also okay.
Yeah.
If you imagine that it's your day-to-day and you open your you start to work and you want to find, for example, oh, I need this guideline and I don't know, I'm not very sure where I can find it, or you have to find something. What would you expect in a climate service platform?
Because Julieta, people are indicating that they cannot write. It seems not to be editable. So yeah, perhaps then if it's not editable, it's good that, you know, people write on the chat this type of functionalities. If for them it would be useful, you know, to connect with the wider climate services community, or if they would like to know which are the other actors in the field, things like that.
Yes, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry,
perhaps
I don't know why this is not. I'm sorry, I don't know what is the problem.
But I think commenting in the chat is the same.
Yes.
So if if what you wanted to add in these sticky notes, you can keep these words and also add them to the chat. And for the next session, we can arrange this because we will repeat this session in the second hour.
Yes, sorry. Now you can write. Sorry. We can pass to the second if you want.
No, I would stay in the first one. Perhaps if you want, because we only have a couple of minutes more. If you want to repeat the exercise for the first question, we can do it. And then we close the session, then
Okay, sorry everybody.
So would you like to repeat the first one, Julieta?
Yes.
Now give a couple of minutes.
Now, I think that now you can write if you want to try. And if you want to write something in the, I think it's okay.
Oh, no.
If it's possible or not, because I changed it, but I don't know if you can write. Otherwise, we have.
I don't think so.
I see that question one. Share good practices is fine, as it is good basis to show what are doing and see what the others are doing too. Yes, exactly, to share. Seeing other case studies would help. Yes. I don't know now if people can answer.
Yeah, I would use the chat now.
Yes.
Because we have
one.
I think it's blocked for some reason, but it doesn't matter.
We have other ideas.
Yes, we just collected some 60 BAPs in 3 European countries, Italy, Spain, and France.
Yeah, so perhaps this comment refers more to information that they could add than to the platform, more than requirements that the platform should have.
Okay. Okay. If you want, we can try again and go to the first to think about a little more and to pass to the second question. But I don't know, Marta, if in the next session.
I think we don't have more time. Well, Mauro can confirm.
Yes.
Mauro, should we reconvene should we go to the break now, or do we have a couple of minutes more? How do you see?
From the main room, they should send an alert, so we can go until.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Here it is the alert. The breakout session will be closing in 1 minute, 60 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So then the ones perhaps that are very curious about the second question or that are looking forward using this platform that we will solve now during the break, you can reconvene, or if not, we invite you also to join other sessions because we have a couple more of sessions that are running in parallel where other topics apart from policy and community will be discussed. So now, as I said, we will have this 15 minutes break. And then remember also that the summary of our discussion will be reported on the last day of the Webstival. So tomorrow afternoon, Judith is going to provide a summary of the topics we have discussed. And well, just to thank you for joining this session and see you around during the Webstival then. Have a nice break and perhaps see you later. Bye-bye.